so today here we are on this front end. Now we've already stripped the back end, we've already pulled the gas tank, previous videos, pulled all the fuel lines, all the wiring to the back of the truck. Today what we're going to do is we're going to go through and remove all the front end. We're going to remove the steering box, the linkage, the tie rod ends, idler arm. I'm going to remove the upper and lower control arms, the spindle, the spring, the shock, and I believe that'll be about it, and maybe the motor mounts. Then it'll be all gutted and stripped. We're going to push it out, pressure wash it, and then we'll get it ready for the blaster. Now we're not going to get this blasted until we get the rest of this stuff done. That all has to be blasted, the bed, the cab, and we're already ready for the doors, the fenders, the hood, the bumper, the core support. Those are all at the blaster right now. But we won't send this off until that stuff is all done and blasted. And then the videos will kind of slow down a little bit, partly because there's a lot of preparation involved in getting the welders that we need, the TIG welder, the MIG welder, the argon gas, getting all the stuff that we need, the grinders, cut-off wheels. I've done this stuff before for other shops, but I've never done it for myself, so a lot of the tools I don't have. So I'm going to kind of take a step back maybe through the summer and put the tools together that we need. I have a whole list of tools I have to purchase, so we'll go through that. And there's still quite a few videos. If you're watching the series and you've made it this far, I believe there's about 15 videos just on the deconstruction of this. So today's video, we're going to go ahead and remove the front end, get that all ready to go, get that all ready to be blasted and cleaned up. And then, like I say, the videos will slow down for probably maybe a month or two, and then we'll ramp back up again once we get all the tools and the supplies that we need. Building a project like this, if you don't do it for a professional shop or you don't do it every day, some of the tools you may not have, and you may need to go through and buy those tools. So after this video is done and we get all this stuff to blasting, maybe I'll throw a video together of the tools that you're going to need to do this type of a job. And I have 6 other vehicles, so this isn't my primary driver. Obviously, to do a frame off restoration, you need to have something that you don't drive every day. And I have another vehicle, another truck to drive. So this is just the donor truck, so we're just stripping everything apart. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to stop rambling and we'll get to work. So I wanted to show you guys a few things. We got this side all stripped out. We got the lower control arm, the upper control arm, the spindle, the brake rotor. A couple things that we learned. Obviously there's the spring, the brake caliper, and the shock. The most important thing is to remove your shock first. I did not. I actually did it the hard way. Of course, that's how I learned best, I guess. So you want to remove the shock first, otherwise it'll get jammed in your spring when you try to remove the lower control arm. So first thing we're going to do on this other side over here is we're going to remove the shock first. We'll take you over here real quick. So we're going to remove the top bolt. You got to put a little clamp on this side and a 13 millimeter. We're going to zip off the bottom part, drop the shock down. Then we will remove the torsion bar or the anti-sway bar, whatever you want to call it. Then we'll remove the tire rod end. Then we will remove this bottom bolt on the spindle, I believe is a 21. Then from there, we're going to remove the bolt that goes across here to the lower control arm, and then the other one here in the back. Then we'll remove the top bolt on the control arm, and this whole thing should come out. First thing we're going to do is remove this wheel. Then we're going to remove the brake. Then we're going to remove the rotor and the spindle. So I'll set you over here on the tripod and try to get a closer angle for you. Well, as you guys can see, I kind of skipped, fast forwarded through a few things. So I didn't really get an ending or kind of a deconstruction of tearing this all apart. I figured as much as we're going to be putting this together and taking it apart and putting it together and taking it apart to get it all fit and cut and everything, I neglected to get that, so I apologize. But we got the frame to lay down completely flat on the ground. We did have to remove the transmission cross member because there's some bolts that hang down underneath that about 2, almost 3 inches. So I pulled that out. You can see it's kind of there sideways. So the frame actually lays completely flat. And what I've done is I pulled out the shocks, I pulled out the coil springs, pulled everything out so I could see how much our articulation and how much travel I'm going to get with my control arms before I do any modifications. Looks like to me we're going to have to do aftermarket control arms, top and bottom, partly because the way that it bolts here on the bottom, and I'll get you a little bit closer and show you, it's going to actually hit the ground when we lay frame. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. But I wanted to kind of show you a little bit. So I'm going to lower this down. That's how much extra lift I get. But I need to have about 14.5 inches from this middle of that spindle to the ground. And that's about where it maxes out without any modifications. And from here to here, it's only about 10 inches. And when we bring the frame down another 3 inches, that's going to even be less. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have to do aftermarket control arms. But let me show you inside here what it looks like, get you a little bit closer. So it's pretty much pancaked right now. I did remove the bump stop that was bolted in right here. I removed that. There's no coil. It's pretty flat. It's laying pretty flat on the bottom of that control arm, but you can see just a little bit of the frame is sitting up. Not very much, maybe 1/4 of an inch. But we're gonna have to, drop this front bracket down. We're going to do a C-section there on the bottom, the front section. I actually call it a Z-section. You can see where it's laid out with no bag, no nothing in there. That's kind of where we're at. Here's the top part. We're actually rubbing right here on this. So if we was to use these control arms in the top, we'd have to cut these over on both sides and then reinforce that. So I think at this point, it probably just makes more sense for us to just get aftermarket control arms and aftermarket spindles and get the airbags put in. So until next week, that's kind of our status update. We're going to be kind of cleaning up the frame a little bit, maybe doing a little bit of mock-up. I might put the rear axle in, see how much we need to get with the C-section in the back, just kind of do some little measurements. Other than that, that's pretty much it for the deconstruction. We're completely down to bare frame. Everything's out of the truck cab, everything's out of the bed. All the interior is out, all the panels are off. Took us exactly 15 days to do it. Now, it's pretty much just me by myself. I had a little bit of helpers here and there. But 15 days to strip it down to bare frame. All right, that's it. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.